All right.
Let's get there. Come on. I told you to drive faster.
Dude, we're running late already.
Ah.
All right, come on, let's go. All right. Hello.
Wow, our live studio audience got larger at the last minute.
Oh, I love it.
Hello?
Welcome to Talk Heathen. I'm Eric Murphy.
I'm Jamie Boone.
This is Season 2, Episode 33. It's August 19th, 2018. We're happy that you're here. So, a couple things you may have noticed. The green screen isn't here. It is getting revamped. We're trying a couple things. We have been making some changes to the studio.
Yeah.
And don't adjust your dials. That is streaming out in 4K.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
4Ks. That's one more K than the KKK. So ask yourself who's better.
What? Why? Why?
Because
Why?
the KKK is a bunch of bullshit.
That
We're
was
great.
the end of our show. Okay.
I don't know. Whatever. Okay. I'm concerned about racism, and the KKK is racist. I said it. I know it's controversial. I refuse to look at Eric because he was hitting me with the judge eyes.
Deserves the job.
All right.
All right.
So, what else we got for the introduction?
For the introduction, thank you, Jamie. Very nice.
I went and looked at the quiet corner.
If you are in the Austin area next weekend, before Talk Heathen, if you go to the Hope Farmers Market, we're going to be launching.
You will be able to attend the opening noodle cutting ceremony for the ACA's Pasta Bar.
Yes, the Flying Spaghetti Monster Pasta Bar, where you can try our bourbon cream sauce or an amazing red sauce.
Yeah.
Or you can get the left ball of the Flying Spaghetti Monster, which is a 1 pound meatball.
1 pound meatball?
I'm pretty stoked about it.
Yeah.
It's excellent. We may or may not have
Sample
Matt Dillahunty there.
He better be there.
Who may or may not be dressed as a pirate.
Because he may or may not be ordained in the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster.
Oh, yeah. I got to buy that. That was awesome.
Yeah. Maybe. Allegedly. I don't know.
Allegedly.
So it's going to be great.
Yeah, so if you're in the Austin area, August 26th, go to the Hope Farmers Market. Opens up at 11. Jamie and I will be there. Matt will be there. Our amazing chef Josh will be there. And
Josh!
We're really, really stoked about that. Also, I get to announce this week's winner. So we are still doing the Talk Heathen poster contest.
Actually, can I just say, in the chat, someone has indicated that they are donating through this show in recognition of the anniversary of their birth, 66 years ago. So thank you, Roger. Your name just went past the thing.
Roger, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Roger. We're on a first-name basis.
Okay. Now I'm completely off.
It's weird. It's like there's a proximity effect for people that come talk to me, that they are often thrown off the rails. Huh.
Okay.
Totally unrelated to me.
I kind of want to get to...
No, you were pointing out the winner of the T-shirt.
Yes.
Yeah.
The winner of the T-shirt, his name is Tommaso.
How did he win that T-shirt? How did Tommaso win that T-shirt?
He won that T-shirt by printing out the flyer that we have. You can still find it on our social media, and we'll pop that back up again because we are continuing to give away shirts to our favorites. And our favorite, can we get it up? Can we get the image up? That flyer was posted at the...
Wait, that church in the background, is this a religious landmark?
Yes, it is.
Where is that religious landmark?
That is the St. Peter's Basilica in Rome.
Really? That's the one that was paid for with 1 trillion indulgences, and now people can call in and express their doubt.
I am so
the thing that it's
freaking excited about that!
That is hype!
Tommaso, get in touch with us, message us. I think that's about it.
Do we have anything else? How should he get in touch with us to give us a T-shirt size?
Oh, the same way that people can submit their pictures, and that's on Twitter or Instagram. On Instagram, it's Talk Heathen 1, and on Twitter,
is Talk Heathen 1.
Instagram, it's Talk_Heathen. Yes.
Yes.
PM us.
That's not a euphemism. You want to take calls?
No, it's not. I do, but I want to get to a few more things. Number one, we have a couple open lines. If you're a religious caller, you got something good to talk about, give us a call, 512. Wow, it's way down there now. There's so much more space now that we're in 4K. Oh, right nice, there. Jamie. 512-686-0279. That's 512-686-0279.
Call now.
All right.
And we'll doubt your God even more somehow. We'll find a way.
Got it. Now let's get to some calls. We have Andrew calling from Spain. Andrew, you're live with Eric and Jamie. How are you doing?
Hey.
Hey.
Last time I called, I got to talk to Eric, but there was also EJ, and I didn't actually get to talk to Jamie, so hi.
Hi. Glad to talk to you for the first time.
Glad to talk to you again.
Is this a follow-up call on the same subject, or you bringing something new?
Not really. It's something else entirely. Okay, I wanted to talk about the ontological argument. I know you've, it's a bit of, atheists, we atheists usually say that the ontological argument doesn't have much merit because you're defining things, God into existence.
Right.
But I wanted to talk about the logical merits. I mean, logically, I can't really see a flaw other than because you're defining things from the real world into existence. So,
actually,
sure
can you clarify what you mean by defining things from the real world into existence? Because to me, that sounds like there are things in the real world and you're making them exist.
The ontological argument basically says that maximally great being would be greater if it existed. And that's defining a God into existence. Mm-hmm. That's a phrase that I've heard many atheists say. I mean, I think Matthew Hartis has certainly said it. Others.
Those are the responses to the ontological argument, which is that you're imagining the God into existence.
I realize that the main flaw is that you can prove that that something is greater if it exists. But I'm not sure if that same argument could be used with some other property to define something else into existence.
Yeah.
And what is the issue with that logically?
Sure.
So to be clear, the people have taken the other quality and the most that quality. So it's there is a thing that is the most smelly thing that exists.
Dawkins.
Yeah, anything that is exists and is smelly is more smelly than something that doesn't exist. Therefore, God is the smelliest thing that exists. Right.
Well, or specifically,
or that
we can come up with something maximally smelly.
Yeah,
and
there's a reason that
maximally smelly we call God.
Yeah. That's the exact wording. I was going to say, therefore, Jesus really needed to get his feet washed on that occasion. So
he washed people's feet, actually.
Yeah.
His feet were washed by one.
Maybe he was just really tired of living in a house with 12 other dudes who didn't wash their feet. I don't know. In any case, Jamie. Yeah, whatever. Don't stop me from saying snarky things about Jesus, please. But in any case, the point at which the logical flaw is that's originally stated, there's a couple of them. One, the idea that there is a thing that is the most powerful thing in existence. So if you have the kind of definition of powerful that we sort of assume, you can leave that as it is and go forward and say, yes, but that doesn't mean that it is the most powerful thing that can be imagined. So, for example, a really, really powerful space laser could be the most powerful thing that exists, right? The most powerful thing that you can imagine would be a thing that was more than an idea, but that doesn't mean that that idea exists in reality. I feel like that wasn't as clear as I intended it to be, but...
Can I take a stab at it?
Yeah, just let me finish up my thought because I've only half thrown it out there. I know that usually my thoughts go uncompleted. But of the things that exist, if you ranked them in order of powerful, sure, you could have a first most powerful thing, but for what we know and can demonstrate, the most powerful thing that exists could be something that is much less powerful than an existent version of the Abrahamic God. So saying, if this existed, it would be more powerful, doesn't mean that that thing exists, or at least that's the take I would on it. You probably have a better, more succinct wording of that.
No, well, I just wanted to add more to it, that's all.
Oh, okay.
So what I wanted to add to it was that originally this argument had the omnis in it, right? Omnipotent, right? All-powerful, omnipresent, is everywhere, omniscient, which is all-knowing, omnibenevolent, which is all-loving. So if you have an...
I just use maximally great because it's what modern apologists tend to use.
Actually, there's a reason why they did that. The reason why they did that is because there was an argument against it, and the argument against it was that there were a whole bunch of really, really funny ways that you can show that just can't exist, right? You can't have an all-powerful being because there was could God create a rock so heavy, a boulder so heavy that even he couldn't lift it? Right? Could God create a burrito so spicy that he couldn't eat it? And so they switched to maximally. But that's just a semantic game because there's no difference, right? If we had someone calling in that's actually presenting it, you would hear maximally because all of a sudden you can kind of wiggle your way out of it, but it still doesn't make sense. They still need to be able to respond to that.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if Jamie fully understands that I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm an atheist. A couple times I've said atheist as in third person, but it's just that I'm not entirely convinced that the defining things into existence part of the argument is fallacious logically. I understand why the logic and the fact that it's true logically does not imply that it's true in the real world, because logic, as I understand it, it's a human concept that to represent reality, but a concept invented by humans.
I agree with your conclusion, but for different reasons. So the fact that what we define as logic is explained and given terms and our representation of the logic as it can be applied to reality. The fact that model happens to be using words that are constructed by humans doesn't relate to the difference between an argument that is valid and an argument that is sound. So an argument that is valid is one where if the premises are true, the conclusion necessarily follows. And I know I'm stealing your thunder because this is one of your favorite things to talk about, Eric. So thank you. But what I will say is, sure, it can be a valid argument, but unless you can demonstrate that those premises are true, you've set up the framework that you would test, hypothetically, to demonstrate a God. But, a maximally great thing that could ever exists is something that, particularly if you also define that thing as the greatest player of hide and seek ever, not something that you can demonstrate in reality.
Right.
So when you to conclude. So when you say I don't think it's logically fallacious, sure, the premises as they're laid out you can say those things, but the conclusion, I would say, doesn't necessarily follow. So it's not necessarily logically fallacious. You can say that it's not valid, but also you can say that the premises can't be demonstrated.
Yeah, well, in the case of the actual ontological argument, it's true that you can demonstrate that, maximally greatest being has to exist and so on, or more that existing is better than not existing.
Hold on, really?
Yeah.
That's
okay. So let's try this. Jamie used stinky, right? So if something is maximally stinky, does that mean it exists because it's better that it exists than that it doesn't? Wouldn't it be better that it doesn't exist because it's maximally stinky?
For non-existing things.
Okay, then define great. And define better.
Non-existing things is an universal concept among humans.
Existing things is a universal concept among humans. Is that what you just said?
No, existing things is something that, existing is a concept that
we get.
Humans, if not, understand.
Okay.
Whether something that doesn't exist is great or how great it is something that would need to be defined as a premise.
Sure. And I don't think I would grant in that premise that existing is necessarily great. I mean, in the case of something maximally stinky, I'd rather that not exist. So does that mean that we can only pick the good things that exist and leave out the bad things? And don't you get an infinite regress, right? You can take this and you can shoot it all the way back. Okay, well, there has to be something greater than that because I imagined a thing that's maximally great and I just add one to it. Right, and then what do we get?
Yeah,
right. I mean, what you have is you have an argument that's based on special pleading because it says I am putting the cap here, and then not going any further. So, I mean, you need to get away from the special pleading, right? And I know that you're just running through the argument, but these are different ways to look at it. Is that if somebody says, oh, well, existence is better than non-existence. No, don't grant that premise, right? If they say, well, maximally great, it has to be a single thing. No, don't grant that premise because then you actually get people that say, okay, well, then maximally great means that it needs to have a mind, it needs to have, consciousness, kindness, ambivalent, and then they start stacking shit on, and then you got to wonder, okay, when are you going to draw the line?
Right.
And I mean, Jamie got it absolutely right. When you define something into existence, you can do that one of two ways. Number one, you can name something that exists. I think God is the universe. Cool. Then your God actually exists. Fucking great. Right? It doesn't do much. The other one is when you come up with your own hypothetical deity and just go on this road and you say, this is how I define this thing, but you don't ever show what that means. You're just going in this circle jerk, that just never ends. And so the best thing to do is stop it, when it starts, say, hey, you need to back it up. Think of a murderer, think of a pedophile.
Yeah.
Right? Is it better that a pedophile or a murderer exists than not exist? Right? God in the story of Noah kills all but a handful of people, murdering every single child, every baby at its mother's breast, every animal except for a few. That's in their story, right? A great. The truly great thing would be if that God didn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but I think to be clear, the problems definitely arise when you try and apply an abstract, logically constructed argument that is detached from reality. When you take that and you try and apply it to reality, you run into all kinds of problems, particularly if it doesn't have testable premises, right? It's why for thousands of years people have examined logic, and it's been very helpful, right? Since the early Greeks in Western thought, there's been ideas about logic and epistemology, but it took the last 200 years for modern science to develop. And modern science means we can take this phone call and broadcast to the internet at the same time.
Well, I don't know.
I mean, I'm not.
That's kind of.
I don't want to diminish the influence and importance of philosophy.
We derive math and science from philosophy, and out of those, we were able to build and
I think
growth
science certainly, like, as resulted from recognizing an epistemology, right? Empiricism is something that needed to be existed before, you could set up scientific parameters to test hypotheses about reality. Math is a way of describing the things that we observe. So basically,
we'll sit and talk. This is a conversation for a beer, I think. Andrew?
Yeah.
This has been fun.
Oh, it's Andrew, but whatever.
Oh, Andro?
Yep.
Andro. Sorry about that.
No.
Alrighty, Andro. Anything else, Jamie, before we move on?
What would the most common arguments for ericology would be?
Or a what? Sorry?
Ericology.
Oh, ericology. Actually, I do have an answer to that. So I had an amazing fan of Talk Heathen mail in, and I know that I wouldn't have been able to bring this up on the green screen, and I don't think can we zoom in, Mark? Let's see if we can get this.
Yeah.
Can we get a zoom? No? Maybe? All right. You can hardly see it. It says the Book of Eric.
Mm-hmm.
True, because I say so. And I'm working on filling it out, so if you have any suggestions, let me know. But I can tell you that there are a couple things that, if you were to compare them side to side with the Bible, mine's better.
Yep.
Mine says that slavery is bad. Right?
Of course.
Mine says, don't be a dick.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Right?
Hey, Eric, does your book
Hunt.
relegate women to second-class non-citizens?
That falls under not being a dick.
I see.
Or
yes.
yeah,
Matilda Hunt
or a jerk. Don't be a jerk.
Said that if he could replace every time the slavery shows up in the Bible and with something else, it would be a much better book.
Well, and if you were to go by other things, right? This book that I'm holding, if you look at the stream, it's nice and small, easy to read, right?
I say it's more
actually
portable.
Smaller than my Book of Mormon, right? So definitely that one wins. I got my Bible here. Look at this monster. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It cuts to the point without long, rambling stories that include slavery, misogyny, death, and genocide.
Mine has actual science in it. I should share that out on social media. I'll start to post books from my book of ericology.
I made that joke deliberately, like, yes, it came as a journal to be a vessel of the words of the prophet. So,
it is the official standpoint of the ACA that ericology is not an actual religion. But if you want to do it, do it. Let's do it. All right, brother. I love that.
All right. Well, see you.
All right. Take care, buddy.
I've made that joke before about the official position of the ACA, and it was pointed out to me that, one, I shouldn't say those words because I am the president and therefore official spokesperson, and two, I should make sure that people know that we're joking.
We are absolutely joking.
Yeah. Although I don't want to.
I am not a prophet. I am not a religious leader.
No. You can definitely stand by it. I just mean I got told that I shouldn't, and I agree with them.
But it
you
looks
get to
like
be a prophet,
we had a huge hiccup in the phone lines, and everybody dropped out except one person in. Oh. So if you were waiting on the line, call back in. Looks like the lines are up and running.
Actually,
also, if you are a theist caller, now is your time. We had 2 theists that were waiting on the line. So call in 512-686-0279. Go ahead, Jimmy.
You have heard the call from the prophet Eric of ericology. Call, not answer the call, make the call to whatever, etc. I'm entirely unpracticed at feel the spirit of Eric motivate you to dial the phone and dial 512-686-0279.
Actually, our producer said that he was a Murphyite.
First follower.
All right. So we're actually going to move on to James in Mississippi. James, you're live with Eric and Jamie. How's it going?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing all right, man.
Marvelous.
What's up?
Lee. Good. Second-time caller, and I'm an avid viewer of your show.
Cool. Thank you.
I have I have an argument. I'm an atheist. I have an argument against the whole Christian idea of free will, and I'm talking about the Christian religion specifically, because I used to be a Christian for over 20 years. So
I feel your pain.
I would like you to try and refute it if you could, because although I would never say this about most things, but I think this is almost irrefutable, and I say that with caution, but I think I have a very robust argument why, if you believe the Christian doctrine, you cannot believe that free will exists if you're going to be consistent with the Scripture. And there's a lot of different ways to look at it. But
do you want me to take devil's advocate in this position?
I think he wants you to take Jesus advocate in this position.
My goodness.
My God.
Well, my God.
No.
All right. So we can do that. I will put forward the position. Let's do this.
All right.
And then we do have a theist on the line. I do want to make sure we get to them, but I do really enjoy this. So I love the concept of free will. Can I give my refutation of it before we move forward? I'd love to. Actually,
I was going to say, wait, who's this we stuff? You remember the last time that you and I sat down over drinks and
argued with each other?
Free will. That was not broadcastable.
No. But where I would go with free will is it really doesn't matter. There are a whole bunch of atheists who are quoted, but they quoted other atheists who goes, but I don't have no idea where it started. I know that Hitch famously said, right, I have to believe in free will. I have no choice. When it comes to free will, it really doesn't matter because whether we have free will or not, and Jamie's going to get mad at me on this one, we behave in such a way, and our society is built in such a way that we assume that we do. Whether we have the free will to assume that is a totally other thing, and you could just get further and further down the rabbit hole. But a Christian, so if I'm going to take the Christian side of things, what I would say is, put on my Christian hat here. All right. So we have to believe in free will because Adam and Eve made the choice to eat of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil in paradise. And because they made that choice, they were cast out, made mortal. Women were punished especially bad. And snakes have to wriggle around on their tum-tums. So what would you say? What's your argument against?
Well, I mean, I would say that's contradicted by the Scripture. So let me just back up for a second. So now, obviously, time could pass, and we can have more information on the future. We can understand more about the universe, more about science, and this argument could change. So as of now, the four general forces that we're aware of in the universe, we have gravitational, nuclear weak, nuclear strong, and electromagnetic force, and everything else is a subset of that, such as your coefficient of friction, for example. When you learn about in, like, your entry-level physics classes, you learn how to calculate that, for example. But I'm not going to get into all that. I'm just going to talk about the basic four. So these are the only configurations that we are aware of that can be tested for in science right now. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to get into like quantum mechanics stuff because I think it's funny when Christians bring that up because that is so abstract and requires such an immense mathematical knowledge that most people, I mean, I took a quantum mechanics class and I did very well in it, but I would not feel comfortable speaking on behalf of that because it's just so weird.
Sounds like you took a quantum mechanics class.
Yeah, and I only had one. I did well, but I still would not feel comfortable arguing that because it's just so weird. So, but my only presupposition in this argument is that there was a specific geometric configuration of the atomic molecules at the time of the Big Bang. That's the only precept. Now, I'm not saying what it was. I'm not saying what the configuration was. And that's kind of reinforced, at least somewhat justified, especially it has to be justified by Christians because if you want to talk about, like the finely tuned argument, for example, how they say if there was a difference of a billionth
that's entirely
of the
untrue.
forces, then it would cease to exist. So it had to be finely tuned. So they almost have to agree with that.
Well, actually, you'd be surprised that there are a lot of people who have put forward that argument, not knowing that the Earth revolves around the sun in an elliptical orbit and not in a perfectly round orbit, and that there are many, 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 many miles that that we are closer to and further away from the sun, depending on the season. So you'd be surprised, man.
Yeah.
So with all that said, whatever that specific geometric configuration was at the time of the Big Bang, can't say what it was, but whatever that was, and if God is maximally powerful, whenever, and even if those particles are moving around, who knows? It doesn't matter. If he's personal, like William Lane Craig says, for example, and he made a choice and he knows everything, he must have known what's going to happen ahead of time, because there's I think there's over 100 scriptures where it basically says that, God knows the future, God knows everything. So if that's the case, he made a choice, he knew exactly what was going to happen beforehand. And I know you've heard that argument before, but
absolutely.
What if a Christian said, what's that?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, but what if a Christian said, no, he wasn't aware of the choice? Well, no, I'm sorry. If he had a choice in the universe and he knows everything, obviously he would know what's going to happen. I know you guys have heard that before. But if he didn't have a choice, if there truly was only one way for the universe to exist in its state, then he didn't have a choice, and therefore free will cannot exist either, because there was only one way in which the universe could exist. Now,
maybe?
I would say the conclusion of that argument is that God can't have free will in that construction. And then you could extrapolate for that God is greater than us. Having free will would be greater, therefore we can't.
Well, we don't even need to get to that argument about it.
I was just saying that there's a missing.
There's also
but if he has a specific design, if he has a specific design and he knows the future.
Okay, hold on, because here's where we start getting into straw manning, right? We don't have a believer who believes this, who's putting this forward, and because of that, we're creating a believer to attack, right? We really need to be careful. We can talk about the arguments because it's important to talk about the arguments, but when we start getting into those specifics, what we start to do is cut out our ability to meet people where they're at. And if you're talking to a believer, if you're talking to someone who wants to, profess their religious beliefs to you, they don't want to be told what they believe. They want to tell you what they believe, and all you have to do is listen. So just kind of moving forward.
I agree totally, and that's why there's multiple arguments for God, for example.
Well, and
on the other side, it's true as well.
There are multiple variations of those arguments as well. I used to be a
Christian too.
Yeah.
So I was there, and I don't mean to sound like I'm want to be mean to Christians, because I have a lot of family that's Christian. So I'm just, all I'm talking about now, I'm not talking about the all-encompassing argument to convert a Christian or whatever you want to call it to either Christianity or a different religion, or just get them to break away from those chains and just adopt something else, or to adopt nothing at all. I'm just talking about the free will aspect of itself. But if you have if he knows in advance what's going to happen, then we can't possibly have free will. And he had multiple options. But if he only had one option, we still don't have free will. Now, you can maybe talk about, well, what about your soul that also is involved in authoring other actions? Well, if everybody makes different actions, then that means no one got the same copy of the same soul. And therefore, it's not justified to expect someone to be judged at the same criteria of which they're going to be in the everlasting playground, or eternal torment.
Actually, that's not entirely true. And from a Christian perspective, I remember having arguments against that specifically, even as a Christian, right? I mean, number one, people who, when I was a believer, people who went through more shit in their life got, a jewel in their crown, right? They got more stuff in heaven if they were able to get through it, right? Though, it's really hard to pin somebody on those things, because when I was moving out of my faith, I would very easily be able to just drop a book of the Bible and think, oh, well, who cares? But I still believe, right? And the reason I was able to do that is because I had been introduced to the idea that some parts are literal and some parts are poetry. And as soon as it started not making enough sense, then I would find somebody to agree with me that it's poetry. And then I need to find the deeper meaning. And I just need to pray on it. And eventually I might put the words together in such a way that can come off as some kind of deepity or something meaningful to me. But I never put myself in a position to question. And the reason I think that this is relevant is because if you're bringing up those specific things, you also just need to be aware that that may not turn somebody on a dime. Not a lot of believers are so rigid that they'll go, oh shit, if that one thing isn't true, then it all must not be true. Now, I've had people say that they've had, a watershed moment where they, oh my gosh, this is all bullshit. But for most people, that comes at the end of a whole bunch of these things, right? In A Manual for Creating Atheists, they're called micro-inoculations, or in street epistemology, right? Every single time you meet with somebody, it slowly you're helping them develop that epistemological toolbox.
Yeah.
So hazard caution. That will be a good argument if you find somebody with that argument to give, but I would give more time to
if you're
listening to them.
Yeah, if you're arguing with a Christian, let them argue their position. But I think you were calling in to discuss the concept of free will in that construction more so, right? You weren't calling in to construct James, you weren't calling in to construct this as an argument to convert Christians, right?
No. Okay.
That's my bad.
No, you're good. It's a good point. Well made.
It's not an all-encompassing catch-all argument. It's not that at all. It's just a specific, idea that. And the reason why I mention this is because not so much Judaism, but definitely Christianity hinges completely on free will, and it's actually a big reason why if you're going to maintain the faith, you actually have to completely reject the whole idea that free will does not exist. Because if free will does not exist, the fall is total crap. The whole idea of sin is just non-existent if free will doesn't exist. So now, it's definitely more of it's definitely more of a topic to talk about after they've kind of left or they're kind of on the fence, because they have to hold on to that. They're required to, because if they let that go, then you cannot logically believe in the whole concept of sin and eternal punishment if you were never in control of your actions to begin with.
Yeah, if God is in control of what you do, then how can he blame you for doing what he controlled you to do?
Well,
that's all. But it's not a catch-all. It's just specifically on the free will issue, and I'm still learning more about it. But and I'll say this just to kind of wrap it up. So, I got introduced by the idea of free will. I was watching the Sam Harris. I was watching him talk to Joe Rogan, and although I now, especially hearing Dillahunty's explanation of it, and a couple other people's explanation of it, I don't necessarily think that Sam quite explained it as well as he could, but I was absolutely convinced when he talked about randomness, because I was thinking, well, we might not have free will, but if randomness is in the equation, well, then that's still randomness. But when he explained that randomness is just randomness, randomness has nothing to do with your ability to, to author your actions, free of what you're being bound to. It's just randomness is just randomness. That's all it is. And once I realized that, that was basically the nail in the coffin for me when it came to my faith, because it was just it was so weird. But it just made me drop everything, and I know everybody has a different reason for it. But I had those other multiple seeds planted. I just started listening to different people just talk about it, and I just kept an open mind. And I wasn't mad or anything. It's just I really don't. I really can't buy the snake oil anymore.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know.
Yeah, save your money.
Anyway. Yeah. You save 10% of your money, actually.
Yeah. I mean, you can.
Hey, cheapskate. That's just the base, man.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait a minute. Right. Eric, do we have something to say about donating?
We do.
And donations? Oh, sorry.
No.
I didn't know whether you wanted to make another.
That's okay.
I'm
actually going to wrap this up and then I'll make the point. One place that I want to point you to that a Christian might point you to, which is an interesting kind of path to go down, is Romans 9:21. If you go into Romans, there's a story, and have you ever heard of pots made to be broken?
What's that?
Pots made to be broken?
No, I haven't heard of that.
There are Christians who don't follow and don't think that there's free will, right? Yeah. That God, as the potter, can do whatever he wants with his clay and what he makes out of it, and that there are some people who are born going to hell. And that's just what it is. There are some pots that are made to be broken. And so I have heard that argument before, and that is a really wild one to get into because there's not a lot of love in that one. But James, this has been a really fun conversation. We're going to move on. Thank you for calling.
For sure.
All right, take care.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Thanks. Yeah.
Cheers.
I will say on that point that's the doctrine of predestination, in case you wanted a term that is easily Googleable for that. But, we don't have all day to go through the minutiae.
No, and we have a caller who's in South Africa that I told we would get to because he doesn't have a whole lot of time. So I want to really quickly, Patreon.com.
What is Patreon.com?
Patreon.com is a way that you can support us, that we're able to do this. Mm-hmm. We're able to get the lights. We're able to get the camera. We want to get the green screen up and going again, but this is really cool too. As you support us, we're able to provide more content. And because people were supporting us, we're able to keep the ACA open 7 days a week. But that's not all. I want to go to conventions next year. I want to do live shows, and I want to see you in person.
Yeah.
So here's how you can support us, and here's how you can help get us there by supporting us on patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. And we have not been doing a very good job of announcing our top 5 patrons, but I'm going to do that at the end of the episode. I will be announcing our top 5 patrons at the end of the episode. But before I move on to that, I want to get to, is there anything else you want to say before?
Yeah, I will say the money that you support Talk Heathen with is not the paycheck for me and Eric, which would be cool, but is not the case.
Nope.
You support this show, and the amount of support that this show garners helps this show, but it also helps the whole mission of the ACA. So if you like us, but you also like the fact that we provide a local community and that there's a place for you to stop by in Austin and make your atheist pilgrimage to, that is also a reason to donate. And if you want Eric and or myself and or other faces that you've seen from ACA Productions to show up in your hometown, as little as $1 is helpful. All you have to do is throw some dollars
Don't
our
listen
way,
to Jamie. He's being really
and
weird.
We will.
What you do is you go to patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me.
Yeah.
At $2, you can get access to our podcast ad-free. At $3, you can get access to the patron-only private YouTube channel where we post the video. And we're doing that with other shows too. Yeah. And other shows don't have the comments enabled like we do. But check it out. And I'm actually going to be announcing a $1 patron exclusive bit of content in 2 weeks. And I'm really, really excited about that.
Yeah. Further details in the description to this video.
All right. I want to move on to
caller number 4.
My favorite heathen, Ocean. You're live with Eric and Jamie. How's it going?
Hello, Eric, my heathen brother.
Hey!
How are you doing today?
What's good, dude? Okay, so for those of you who don't know Ocean, now I'm just getting comfy in my chair. Okay, those of you who don't know Ocean, what do you believe, Ocean?
I am a couple of things, I guess. I'm a syncretic polytheist, which means that I'm an adherent to multiple pantheons. So I'm a polytheist. So
last time I talked to you, you were an Odinist.
That is a term that we don't really use.
Which pantheons do you subscribe to?
So the term that we tend to use is heathenry for the Norse pantheon.
Yeah, but you're calling in to talk heathen, so we're going to fight you on it.
Right, but we've been doing it for longer, so
Bring it.
Let's see. I think we've been using this term for about 1,000 years.
Our fans can beat up your fans.
I don't know, man. It's
fan rumble not guaranteed.
Are covered in tattoos and messy, and they carry axes,
and they have
it's just
fucking awesome beards. That level of bearding, man.
Our fans use science and technology. Bring it. We don't actually want to start a fight. Don't fight anyone.
What did you want to call and talk about, man?
Yeah. Well, there was a call. It was several weeks ago where it was after our non sequitur conversation, which I enjoyed the hell out of. I thought that was a good conversation. There was a conversation that went into experience and the epistemology that kind of like extends from that. And a caller came in and said that I got you on something. And I guess I wanted to kind of talk through that a little bit because I don't believe that I'm playing gotcha games when I'm having these kind of conversations. So
can you clarify?
Or at least I try not to.
Caller called in and said, got you? Just as background?
This was the week. I can't remember. I don't remember the caller's name or anything, but it was on the issue of how when we were talking about experience and that everything that it gets into like, this was very far into the conversation where we get into
the problem of induction
discussions of problem. It's sort of problem of induction, but it's also that all evidence that we receive goes through experience. And we talked about reading a book, which was a bad example. Actually, I think that you could take it to an experiment that you're not going to be able to learn from the experiment unless you experience the experiment.
Which is a really, really funny way of looking at it because, you're right, technically, man, because you're right. I can't learn a thing without learning the thing. Yeah. It is experiential. But that doesn't necessarily mean, because I've thought about it since then. It doesn't necessarily mean.
What was your thoughts since the? Yeah, I was kind of. Yeah. I want to lead into that. Like, what have been your thoughts since that conversation?
Everywhere. Oh my goodness. I dove into it. I was talking to people on the Discord. We have a Discord, by the way, and Ocean is in it. You got to check it out. It is fucking awesome. There's an ACA Discord, and I'm in there a lot. Sorry, I had to plug that.
Link in the description.
I was talking to people in the Discord about it last night, and they had a point, and I was like, oh shit, now I have to reevaluate again. Right? Because I want to know as many true things and as few false things.
Pretty regularly on that Discord.
I
brought in a few of my friends.
Which was awesome because you have a lot of very, very deep thinking, very open and honest friends. You have a few who like to be devil's advocate and just push buttons, but not all of them, so that's okay.
Yes, that's true. I'm not going to deny that at all.
But, so what I will say is... Let's define the problem of induction because I don't want to be talking about something that everybody's like, what the fuck are they talking about? So when we're talking about the problem of induction, we're talking about how can you get away from inductive logic toward deductive logic if everything is prey to the black swan fallacy, right? All of the swans that I've seen are white. There's no such thing as a black swan. Yeah. I'm saying that because I've never seen one. We know that that's fallacious. So how can we move forward to deductive logic? And I looked into it because I was kind of stumped. And I thought, you know what? I overthought this because there's a place for inductive logic and there's a place for deductive logic. And deductive logic is for things that we are defining, right? If we're using the definition of a word and just going that way, right, assuming that the premises are true, will come to true conclusions. Now, we can be wrong about those premises and later go back and go, okay, since the premises weren't true, we're going to have to reevaluate. But until that happens, using the best definitions that we have, that's really the best tool that I think we can get to. It's not satisfactory, right? But I think the only thing that would be satisfactory is for me to say that I can come to absolute knowledge about a true thing, and I can say for sure this thing is true. And I've talked to people who said You know, you were there. There was a presuppositional apologist with you and I on the line in that Discord, and he was saying, well, how can you know it's absolutely 100% true? Either it's 100% or it's nothing. Well, that's not true.
Are we talking about
evolution fails or whatever?
Yeah, evolution falls. Yeah,
falls. Whatever.
He's a trip.
Yeah. Well, the thing is you are throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because if we are coming to our best approximations of what is true, if we're getting ever closer, and it's that fight, it's that struggle, it's that excitement of moving forward and doing it, right? Why would you discard that? You know, every time we make a mistake, we give ourselves permission to find.
Discarded in my case. Can you be?
No, it was in the
Oh, okay. All right. I thought you were talking about me. I was like,
no.
Hold the phone.
I just think that you make a special pleading case for thinking that it's reasonable to believe in multiple gods. But that aside,
that I do. That's actually an interesting thing that I wanted to go into a little bit.
But I feel like Jamie's kind of out of this conversation. I feel really awkward because he's my co-host and my buddy. So, what do you?
Well,
I'll
whether
chime
or not
in.
it's special pleasing, I think is important.
Okay, no, I'm against special pleading. I'm for special pleasing, Ocean.
Oh dear.
Okay.
Oh God.
Which God?
Apparently, Ericology is a thing. Can you believe in me?
I believe that you exist.
What's up?
I haven't had an experience with you beyond phone calls, though.
Yeah, but you're going to come to Austin. We're going to have a beer.
More evidence. It's almost like the limited experience that he has is sufficient for him to conclude with some level of confidence that you exist, and that he doesn't have to directly be in the same room as you in order to hear and receive sufficient evidence that he can experience to conclude that you exist. So at the beginning of this conversation, one of the things that stuck with me was, in order to learn something from a study, I would have to experience that study myself. No, you can experience a report.
Not what I was saying at all.
I know that's not what you're saying. It was something that I think was alluded to, and it's definitely an argument that I've heard before. So as far as that idea is concerned, I would say no, you can experience the report of that scientific experience, of that particular experience, and you can evaluate how trustworthy the report that you're reading is based on the source of that information. So there's a certain level of reliability to my experience that these two mugs that are now off screen, that this particular, fuzzy guy over here exists. I experience it. That
for those of you listening to the podcast, he pointed to the flying spaghetti monster that we have on the shelf.
Yes. I can experience that myself, and I can tell someone else about it, and they can tell me, no, I've been in that room, I was in that room with you, I didn't see that. And we can have two contradictory personal experiences about that. However, the way that you approach a more objective and a more reliable understanding of what is real is by adding more eyes, more subjective experiences to what you can establish as the most reliable evidence for that. So the most reliable evidence that you could produce for this guy's right here is pictures of it, video of it, testimony of it, probably in that order. But the point being, for someone to say, I wasn't present during that entire scientific study, well, you hear stories about things that happen all the time. If you watch the news, you're hearing a story that is reported to you, and you evaluate how trustworthy that news reporter is, how trustworthy the organization they work with is. If you have systems of human beings checking each other's reliability, for example, if you had an entire network of peer review examining the methods, the methodology, and the results of experiments, and replicating them so that you're not examining a single historical event, you're examining a process that can be repeated, I think that there is an overwhelming supply of evidence and reliable results that you can use to come to the conclusion that this method is reliable for producing results, right? We are on the internet right now.
Where were you in the Discord last night? Someone was asking that question.
Last night I was here doing stuff.
So Ocean.
I'm trying to figure out.
They didn't ask me for a lecture.
On anything that you just said, so.
I got a question for you, because
quickly.
we have a couple theists on the line. I do want to get to them, but I do want
Other theists?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
I do want, and atheists too. I do want to ask you a question because I want to continue this conversation. And so my question to you is this. How important is it to you in the life that you're living that the gods that you believe in exist?
I don't necessarily ascribe an importance to it.
Okay.
It's something that I agree with. It's something informs much of the way that I live my life. I think that there's a utility to it.
Okay, so let's say
I agree that it's possible that it's not true.
Okay.
And I understand a lot of the arguments that are in that direction, but I also think that there's plenty of argument. I agree with the arguments that lead into my position.
So what I'm hearing is that part of the reason that you believe some of the things that you believe is a level of utility and a level of logical arguments that support the existence of, for example, the gods that you believe.
The utility is the reason why I keep it around. The utility isn't the reason why I believe.
So if you could be
the
presented...
reason why I believe has more to do with the experience and then subsequent philosophical arguments that follow from that.
So if you could be presented with evidence and a method of examining these things that you found to be more reliable and that you found more reliably explained your experiences, would that weaken your belief in the things that you believe now and possibly strengthen your belief in the things that you were presented with?
We're moving into, I think that this is kind of a street epistemology set of questions. I think that, and I've discussed this, I think with Eric, that I don't think when we're discussing something that's on like a spiritual level, we're looking at something that is outside of the confines of empiricism. There's not...
Well, we disagree with that.
We don't have an ability to test them. We don't necessarily have an ability to observe
So why would you believe them?
Well, because I'm not a physicalist. I think that there's problems with physicalism. Okay. And I think that if you're going to be pure empiricist, then you're going to wind up walking into physicalism, which has a lot of, there's a lot of problems with it.
Sorry, let me just jump in here. So when I asked you why you would believe things that you don't have like empirical reasons to believe, you said, well, I am not a physicalist. Okay. Why is there something, can you elaborate specifically on why you come to conclusions without an empirical basis for them?
So I think that the empiricism fails when we're talking about moral questions. I think that it fails when we're talking about aesthetic questions. I think it fails when we're discussing math. I think it fails when we're trying to prove other minds exist. Okay, so I think it fails when trying to establish that empiricism is the method that we should use. You can't empirically validate empiricism. So you wind up having to use other things in order to justify these things. Gods are but another category in this conversation.
So what I'm hearing is that there are things that you believe should be supported by a method of knowing, right? Your statement, empiricism fails, for example, you said on questions of morality. What I'm hearing is that empiricism is insufficient to support this, and therefore I do not use it as a reliable way of understanding what exists in the universe. Moral questions are not about...
That's not what I said at all.
No, okay, then I misheard you.
Because I think that empiricism has its uses. I'm not going to say, we shouldn't use empiricism at all. I think that empiricism is incredibly useful when it comes to physical claims. Okay. Like when it comes to things that you can observe and run through empiricism, it's amazing. Okay. Like look at the accomplishments of science.
Do you think that the gods you believe in interact with the world?
I think that they do.
Is that something that we can observe?
It could be scientifically measured.
Okay. What?
I think that I just answered that.
Okay.
Sorry.
So if they interact with the world...
You're saying that they cannot interact with the world, right?
No, I'm saying I think they can. Okay. I'm ultimately agnostic on it, but I think that because it gets into questions about what you mean by that interaction, like do I think that they move around physical things? I don't think that that's necessarily the case.
Well, and we're getting a little abstract here. Like I want to plant this in reality, right? Really quick. So for our viewers, because we're starting to lose, I want to plant this in reality, right? Let's go with the Norse pantheon and I'm going to say Thor because Thor is very popular right now because Marvel movies.
I'm happy to discuss
right?
Thor.
Thor
I wear
has
the Mjolnir.
Thor has Mjolnir, right? Is Mjolnir a real hammer?
As in a physical hammer? That's not my belief.
Okay.
It's not the belief of the majority of heathens either that follow Thor.
Okay. So is Thor a breathing human being like you and I?
Or a breathing god?
No. That's also not an understanding either.
Okay.
I can get into it a little bit.
Well, I guess what I'm walking through here is I'm pulling it away and I'm showing, it's really, we can have this conversation for each other, but I want to have this conversation for the people watching as well, right?
Oh, that's okay.
And
cool. We can just kind of go through the basics.
And when we're talking about polytheism, right? When I first met you, my thought was, holy shit, he thinks that Odin is real, that he can go to Valhalla, and that it's a real place, and that there are Valkyries, and that all of this other stuff, and that
is that the case?
A lot of people agree with that. It's
but do you?
I mean, let's see, Valhalla. I'm actually reading a book on what the beliefs of Valhalla are called Road to Hell, which I suggest for anybody that is interested in getting into it. It's by a historian.
Well, I would actually point people to Snorri Sturluson.
Well, okay. So to be clear,
this is she's using Snorri as a source, but her name is Hildra Roderick Ellis Davidson. The book is Road to Hell, discussing the Norse concept of death. It's a history book, and it talks about kind of like what the belief of Valhalla was, as well as the Helheim and a lot of other such things. I wind up being agnostic on the afterlife.
Okay, so
I know a lot of heathens that aren't.
Does it matter to you?
As far as whether or not the afterlife exists?
Well, whether or not Valhalla exists.
I mean, same diff.
Many
afterlives. I don't have any plans to go to Valhalla. I think that Valhalla is like it gets into other beliefs about the multi-part soul and a few other things. Mm-hmm. But I apologize for having a complex religion. But
no, that's okay. I'm just trying to define it for other people. What I want people to see is that we're not.
We can talk about the afterlife.
You're not talking about corporeal beings. You are taking this to a place where we are playing a really, really, really fun mental game back and forth, and I feel like it's a lot of fun, but I don't think that it has any basis in reality. I think that when you're talking about sharing a world with other people and exploring and investigating that world, empiricism is the best way to go, and that when you're talking about metaphysical qualities, when you're exploring those possibilities, that's fantastic, but until you're able to show that one explanation or one possibility is far more likely, or you have proof for one explanation or possibility over another, then until then it's just a fun game, and really it's important.
I have agreement and disagreement with you. I think that if you're going to be telling me, let me try and phrase this correctly because I don't want to run off the rails here.
No, it's okay. I just want to phrase this.
If I were
I just want to frame this. Go ahead.
If I were a heathen missionary, so like going out and trying to convert people and stuff like that, I'd agree with you that someone would need to have a little bit more evidence. But heathens, polytheists in general, we tend not to work that way. It's if you have had this experience and you're looking for explanations and so on and such as, we tend to say, here's some sources that you should look into, investigate this further for yourself, and people wind up kind of becoming heathen in that direction.
So they do or they don't use empiricism?
Religion.
They don't.
I don't think that empiricism is applicable.
But if you provide evidence and ask people to examine the evidence, what do you call that?
Wait, the research that they're doing? Or the reading that they're
the
doing?
research that they're doing.
So if I can get into the systems of UPG, VPG, and SPG.
Well,
let me circle back around to the line of questioning that I had before, which is, you've said that the God beings that you believe exist interact with the world.
Mm-hmm.
All right. In what way?
I think that they might be. I'm not sure what the mechanism for it would be.
Well, no, but what is the effect of their interaction?
it might be a projection of presence. That tends to be what polytheists describe when they describe personal experiences of gods, that there is an overwhelming sense of presence that has a feeling elicited to it, that it is a comfort that is coming from somewhere other than them.
And this is where I get
an experience during prayer or some other such thing.
They project an experience into the minds of believers or people that haven't,
like I said, I'm not sure what the mechanism of it is. I don't think.
Well, I'm just trying to make sure that that's the case. I mean, actually, Ocean, this is a good conversation, but I think that it will take longer than we have left in the show, and we have other callers.
Oh, of course.
I'd like you to stay in touch because I would also like to have a lengthier conversation about this.
And I actually want to jump in because I think that we just uncovered the part where I call special pleading. Right, and that is that I don't think there's a good place for anecdotal evidence when it comes to the beliefs that you have for the world that you're in, right?
I think that anybody who's holding the position needs to be holding it provisionally.
Well, and
if you're going to be,
I think there's a danger to holding it. Period. And I'll tell you why. Because it closes the door to investigation. Because it says I have a provisional answer, and if I'm okay with that, and I'm not willing to explore, then you could never actually find out the answer. And there is a chance that you could.
Provisional answers in science close the door to explanation? That's not my experience.
Well, actually, in science, yes.
You wind up with...
Yes, in science, take a look at, we were talking about the ether before, right? People thought that the ether existed. And so what we did is we bottlenecked our ability to explore because we were trying to show the medium through which light moves. We really thought ether was a thing, right? And I'll give you a real life example. I was talking to someone the other day, someone I care about, who asked that I not give any information about them, so I'm not going to, but what I will say is that they're willing to spend thousands of dollars going to a clinic to get detoxed. They don't have any addictions. There wasn't even a great explanation of the toxins.
Detoxing is.
Yeah.
Right? There was no explanation of methodology, but what they did have is a shit ton of anecdotal evidence. What they had is a whole bunch of experiences with people who said, I went to this and this amazing thing happened. This was cured. This was fixed. This person, and when you do that, right? You are taking that person away from their ability to move forward. And specifically, and I don't think you do this, but I think the danger in that type of thinking is that you get suckers. You get con artists who are willing to take advantage of people who get that provisional thought. And instead of saying, I don't know, they say, well, this could be true and I can live on that. But I think that you would recognize the how bad anecdotal evidence is as evidence. And I think that you would point it out in other places, but I think you're holding this type of special pleading for yourself. And I'll let you have the last word before we move to the next caller. Absolutely.
Yeah. As far as there's a lot of things to address and all of that. I'm sorry. So with the special pleading aspect of it, I don't think that it is special pleading, to be absolutely honest with you.
Well, so we are still near the end of our show and have other callers. And we do this show once a week. And also,
Ocean, you just need to get your ass down here so we can have a beer. I love this.
Yeah.
We can do that for Patreon content.
I was going to say, there are other times we can record.
And talk about the nature of the universe.
Thank you for calling in, Ocean.
Good call, Jim.
Sure. All right.
Take care.
Well, I guess I'll talk to you guys
later.
later.
Really, reach out to me because there are other circumstances where I think Eric and I want to take conversations in different directions, and I'd rather not have this.
I recall something that I wanted to say as well, as far as that, because
Can you say it in Patreon, patron, or in
Can I say
a
it really
different...
quickly?
Go. You can do it. Go.
1, 2, 3, go.
1, 2, 3, go.
All right. So
I'll start a time.
I think that you're not going to be able to prevent con artists from existing necessarily just by saying this, well, we should embrace empiricism in all cases. Because like I was saying earlier, there's still a lot of things that I think empiricism doesn't necessarily cover. And even if you have people, like you have people that misuse science, even though that it's a wonderful system, that they'll take something in science and then expand it into something that is very con artist-y. And you can do that. I think that you can do that with
Pseudoscience.
religion. But just because you can do that with religion doesn't mean that the claims that are being discussed in religion don't have validity or that don't have value. And
well,
I think that that's worth exploring and definitely worth a continued conversation.
Fair enough. But you
All
take
right.
care. Thank you for calling from Africa. What time is it out there?
It is 9 p.m., man. It's pretty late here.
Get a good night's sleep, man. You take care. All right, brother?
night.
All right. See you guys.
I can talk to that dude forever. For some reason,
You don't say.
it is just too much fun.
I
mean, because the thing is
I know,
and Ocean, we can talk about this later. I don't want you to feel like this is sniping, but every chance that we can take the tools away from con artists, we should. And I think that using science to con people stems from a misunderstanding of science, not from using the actual science. But we will talk about that later. Samir has been waiting on the line ever since we started.
let's
dropped out.
take Jen.
Let's take Jen. All right.
Yeah.
Jen in Tulsa. You're talking to Eric and Jamie.
Hi. Oh my gosh. I didn't think I was going to get on. This is nerve-wracking.
Surprise.
Hello.
Okay,
Sorry.
so,
Don't be
I
nervous. Oh God.
I guess I can give you just like a little brief background. I'll try to be quick.
Sure.
So I'm about 20 years old, and I just became an atheist in February.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. But I've been a skeptic for about a year and a half. And Eric, earlier, if I remember correctly, you talked about some denominations believing in, like, you're born to go to hell and
Pot's made
and
to be
whatnot.
broken. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm from a Pentecostal Church of God denomination. I don't know if you're very familiar, but we're the ones that like scream, dance, run around the building, speak in tongues. Yeah.
You're the ones
Rolling in the aisles,
moved by the Holy Spirit.
speaking the language of angels.
We would have weekly messages from God through tongues with a
Interpreter.
interpretation.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's what I grown up with for about 19 years. Right now, I'm still kind of living a double life. And right now, I'm in college, and I'm actually starting up a student secular alliance here.
Yes. Have you gotten in touch with the SSA?
No, it's still like in the very early processes because the fall semester is starting just tomorrow. So it just turned in the papers like Friday.
That's awesome.
Seems like organized.
Yeah, it's a very slow process, but I'm getting there. But I am in touch with the Atheist Community of Tulsa, and they're awesome. Highly recommend.
We got to meet a bunch of them over at the convention in March.
Yeah. Back home, I still go to church with my family. They have absolutely no clue. I used to be on the worship team there, so I'm still very in it back home. But we actually had songs about God being the potter and us being the clay, and about how like if we're broken, we're broken.
That's
but if he
old
wants, he
meme.
can put us back together. But it's just kind of like up to him.
Yep.
But so that's why I decided to call on today specifically. But Eric, I know that you were religious for a long time. Jamie, were you also religious?
I was religious, but of a less fun, exciting way.
This motherfucker reasoned himself out of it. And that is wild.
Okay. I was just kind of wondering, I only being an atheist for like six or so months, I still have like nightmares about hell or panic
You're not
attacks,
alone.
and I feel that shame a lot, and it's very difficult to handle, especially with all the other, stress in life.
Oh, yeah.
So I was just kind of like wondering how to kind of deal with it.
Sure. So it kind of makes, so it's going to take a long time, right? I've been out for a long time, and I still have hang-ups from indoctrination. It roots itself in you. And when people say, what's the harm? This is the harm. This is what we're talking about, because you have to undo all of the damage, right? If you were never told that when you die, you're going to go to heaven and see all of your friends and family again, you would never have thought that would happen. And so what they did is they did worse than lie to you. They broke your leg to sell you a crutch. Yeah. They told you were ill so they could sell you the antidote, the solution. And it will take time, but there are ways that you can help yourself along.
Yeah.
Right?
So the Recovering from Religion Foundation in particular, we know is very good. They have a hotline project. I believe that their URL is recoveringfromreligion.org, but they're highly Googleable.
Googleable.
Yes, I love Recovering from Religion. I heard about them through a podcast, The Scathing Atheist.
Yep.
Yeah. I love them.
Mm-hmm.
But they introduced me to Recovering from Religion, and I've used a lot of their resources.
Cool.
Good.
That's good.
And Dr. Darrell Ray is just an amazing human being, and I want to find a way to shoehorn him into this show. Mm-hmm. We will find it, though.
Well,
if I may ask one more thing.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
Okay.
Granted.
Oh my goodness! I just totally lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay.
I don't know where I was going to go.
It's the proximity effect.
So if you had something to say.
Get in touch with us online.
Yeah.
We have an amazing community on Facebook. The Discord is incredible. On Twitter and Instagram, they're freaking hilarious. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Okay. I, like I said, am still kind of living that double life. So my parents, I don't think they would ever go as far as like disown me or kick me out or anything like that. Like my parents are honestly great people. So I know that they would never do anything like that, but I know that their views about me would change radically. They would never, be able to see me the same way. It's like my mom and I have conversations about religion every single time that we talk to one another. But whenever my brother came out as an atheist, I would still hear them talk about him. And so I was just kind of wondering if you had any information on that, either from like personal experience or anything about like how to kind of talk to family members that may be more hesitant to accept being atheist.
I know we've talked about it. Yeah, we've talked about it a couple times, and we'd be happy to go over it pretty quickly again. I think we'll probably.
In addition, if you're looking for resources outside of the illustrious Eric and myself, Greta Christina has a book coming out, Atheist, that I found particularly helpful, particularly because one of the first things that it highlights is there isn't a single best way. I can tell you, having come out twice to my parents about two things. In the one case, having all right, guys, I need you to sit down. This is a very serious change in my life sort of way. I have a boyfriend, right? And in the second case, just spending more time. Oh, there's a library that I go to that's a Freethought Library. Oh, etc. And eventually they see me wearing an Atheist Community of Austin wristband. And, oh, what is this? And, oh, do you believe that a God exists? And, oh, accidentally they overheard a YouTube video that I was listening to where there was a discussion about, for example, the problem of evil. Tracy was schooling someone, is something as well. And so basically, if the most shocking thing that your family could react to from this would be, oh my gosh, Jen is completely different now. Right, and that I think would be the deepest part of any kind of shock reaction to this. However, if they come to the conclusion, oh, Jen doesn't believe, but they are also see undeniably, slowly, bit by bit, that you haven't, started like burning Bibles and crosses and vandalizing churches in your spare time, I'm assuming. Then they'll sort of understand, this is still my daughter and, we still do whatever Christmas together, and that one has always struck me as the weirdest one. Do you still want Christmas presents? Like, yeah, I run out of socks really quickly. I do need that's true though. But
yeah, and really,
I've seen my sock drawer.
They okay, so put on your Christian hat. I'll put on mine, because I remember the word atheist meant Satan worshiper.
Yeah, it's
the word in particular is very
And so what you want to do is give them the definition. That is my advice. When you do, or if you do decide that it's the right thing to do to tell them, and it does not have to be the right thing to do, it's completely up to you, right? But if you do decide to tell them, you don't have to say, I'm an atheist, because you're communicating to them something that you already know is not the definition. Tell them you don't believe, or that because that right there is our definition of atheist, not theirs. Well, and what you can do is change that later. But Jamie's absolutely right. What I'm saying is at the very end of it, but small bits. Take your time, talk, be honest, open, and over time, if they see that you haven't changed, Jamie nailed that on the head.
Yeah. But again, sorry, the part that we didn't emphasize in this call is if, right? Like, I'm not going to fault you. I don't think Eric's going to fault you, and I'll come to your defense if someone says, "Oh, it's your moral obligation to do this," etc. Right? The family is very important, and while I think that it is very helpful, right? Visibility and representation, not just in media, but in life. Oh yeah, so-and-so doesn't believe, right? People knowing that they had a gay uncle is something that's very helpful for people, coming to that conclusion. It's a separate issue, but there's many parallels, which is that it is a thing that can be hidden, that doesn't directly affect your relationships with everyone, and that people feel, particularly in this society, oh no, I should hide this, I should stay in the closet. But really, at a certain point in time, you want to hang out with people that are like-minded about that. You want to go, in my example, you want to go down to 4th Street or to the Pride Parade, which was excellent. Although the ACA wasn't in it this year. But you also want to be able to engage with, for example, the Atheist Community of Tulsa, and start an SSA, and stop by the Freethought Library in Austin, 1507 West Koenig Lane, where you are welcome 7 days a week.
Heck yeah.
Come in, see a live show. We've got free food, That's the thing. But to be clear, we kind of need to wrap up this particular call. We hope to hear from you in future. I cut you off because you were going to say something and then probably do that as well. All right.
That's okay.
Okay.
What I was going to say
we'll
is...
talk about it at home.
The more open atheists that are out there, the more chances people get to see that, and the more examples they get to see. So right over my shoulder is somebody who we think is awesome.
But
come on, Neil. It's nice over here.
Yeah.
The water's fine. Come on.
Yeah.
It's okay.
You will have a claim to fame to say, you know what? I'm doing something better than Neil deGrasse Tyson.
All right. We're going to move on, but thank you for calling in.
Yeah. Thanks for calling in, and stay in touch.
You guys have been great.
Aw. We love you too. Yeah. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
I like her.
That was a good call.
That was. I want to move on to Samir.
Actually, call number 3 I can handle pretty quickly because I'm pretty sure I know what Steven is talking about. Sorry. So, Steven, you're on the air. And sorry, we're near the end, so I'm probably going to rush
Don't
through
say
this.
that. We are going to talk to everybody on the line, so stay on the line.
No. We're near the end, so this call is probably going to be quickly so that we can talk to all of the other people on the line.
I'm watching you people on the line.
Yeah,
Samir
we're
and
watching
Tom.
our live viewer count.
I want to talk to you.
Don't leave. Whatever. Yeah. So, Amir, how are you doing today? We just talked over you for a minute. Or I'm sorry, not Amir. Steven.
Steven in Montana.
Sorry.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Okay.
Thanks.
This should go rather quickly. I'm an atheist, and I have no confusion about what the word means, so we don't have to go over that rigmarole. I do have a question about wording in the Genesis 2, 21 to 20.
Can I guess? Is this the one where they list the names in order and then translate their Hebrew meaning, and it's some vague sentence that means Jesus is coming back to life for you, or whatever the wording is?
Oh, that's a different one.
Swing it away.
Oh, okay.
That one.
Well,
No,
I
this
struck
is,
out.
It says God took one of Adam's ribs.
Okay.
Right. I've heard it from a theist who I know personally that what the literal Hebrew meaning was he didn't take a rib said he took curve, and the English translators took that to mean rib. But what the actual meaning of curve was he took Adam's DNA in some way.
Oh, bull fucking shit.
To be clear,
no.
To be clear, a more accurate translation of the Hebrew word that he's saying is the concept of a thing that curves.
I'm gonna go sit at my desk. I just want to make sure that which really means my car, and do some work, which really means go to the store.
Yeah, and I am the president of this organization, which really means I'm the president of all atheists, so I can speak for all of them. Sorry. No, but to be clear, you're saying it means curve, as in, like, a thing that is bent in a rounded way?
I'm not putting forth the hypothesis.
Well, I know it's not you.
But I need to say that I'm an investigator. Mm-hmm. I always look for the deeper meaning.
Yeah. It's interesting
in
that
an investigative way, not to have an I gotcha moment.
And that's
I never want those.
Yeah, and that's a good approach, right? That's a good way of approaching questions about reality. I will say it is interesting that when questions of what the Bible means come up, it's always, well, what is it that the scientific method has uncovered that, now we can discover that that's what the Bible was talking about, as opposed to the other way around.
My holy book has real science in it.
There's a scientist and anthropologist named Michael Harner who went down to South America, and he studied among several of the native peoples.
Okay.
In particular, he studied the ways and means of the shamans. Mm-hmm. And it's been known by anthropologists that shamans, they do their trance state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They literally go into their subconsciousness.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yes. I know the idea that you are referring to, though I would not call it going into your subconscious.
I will. I've done a significant amount of that, and the hallucinogens that go with it. It's pretty cool. But
disclaimer:
what do you get out of it?
What I get. I don't know what I get out of it.
Well, I know what I got out of it.
I don't mean to say that I think the authors of the Bible knew what they were writing. What I think was, it's a possibility, rather. I believe it's a possibility that the authors of the Bible took ancient scriptures from their possibly Babylonian captive forebears. Mm-hmm. When the Hebrews were actually captive in Babylon.
Yeah, you mean as opposed to Egypt, where we know there weren't?
Yeah, as opposed to Egypt, we know that didn't happen. But when they were in Babylon, they would have been surrounded by, of course, non-Hebrew peoples, and we know that the practice of shamanism itself, although it takes on many different forms, names, and all.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say that the same thing happened when this religion went and encountered native religions in, as you said, the southern parts of the American continent. But this can go a lot deeper, and it can go into a lot of anthropology and sociology. We are limited to the amount of time that we can spend for each caller at the end of the show. So I would encourage you to keep in touch and to call back, particularly if we don't get in touch with you in between our live shows on Sunday. But it's very interesting, and I'm glad to get in touch with someone that has an interest in sociology and that puts in the time and effort to research things so that I don't have to. So, because I have limited time these days. But I will say thank you for calling in, and I do mean that. Stay in touch.
Yep.
It's not just a thing I say.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Take care, buddy.
Thank you. All right.
So really quick.
Lee.
Hey, Tom, are you still there?
Yes, hello?
Hey, do you still want to talk about whether or not a Jesus existed?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to pop you on hold, but we will talk to you. Hey, Samir, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
You amazing human being.
Welcome.
You've been waiting this entire time, and you want to talk about possibility and truth, right? You're a believer?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
I'm gonna pop you back on hold. We can't wait to talk to you. And Neil, you amazing human being. I absolutely love talking to you. How's it going?
It's going good, man. How about you?
Oh, dude, now that you called, come on. Always better. Always better. But
Neil, are you a repeat caller?
We are going to Neil is fucking amazing. Neil,
I'm sorry.
We are going to save you as a palate cleanser. So I'm popping you on hold.
Interesting phrasing.
And I want to take this time to talk about our patrons because our patrons are fucking amazing. And I want to thank our top patron, Janet. Janet
could be. Oh,
and the rest of the top 5 are Caleb, Wellington, Andrew, and Godzilla Eyes. Now, our top patrons are capped at $10 an episode. So if you want us to thank you, and we will make the concerted effort to thank our top patrons, top 5 patrons every episode. We need to do that. Episode. We said we'd do it. We haven't been doing it. We apologize.
There's a lot of we going on right here.
That's right. You're part of it, Jamie.
All right.
Janet, Caleb, Wellington, Andrew, and Godzilla Eyes, thank you so much for being our top patrons.
And to clarify quickly, that means that if you donate $10 or more, you are in our top patrons. As opposed to your limit is $10. Well, not to be the money-grubbing guy, but you can give us as much money as you'd like.
I kind of hope
as long
that
as you support yourself as well.
If a whole bunch of people jump in, then it goes up. But that said, if you want to be a patron, you can go to patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. And we're really, really excited about that. Please, 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 if you like what we do, $1 an episode, it's $4 a month. We are never going to raise it, and you can cap it if you want, so you don't have to worry about that.
You will not donate $1 more or less than you desire.
That's right, and it really, really does help. So go to patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. You just heard who we've got on the line.
So many plans in the works. We want you to help us make them happen. Plus, you can prove that you are better at donating than all the other people. For people that are competitive, don't you want to win the competition of donating on Patreon? Anyway,
okay,
let's get to calls.
No,
your response to
next Sunday, the 26th. If you're in the Austin area, please drop by the Hope Farmers Market because we're going to be starting that pasta booth. Also, we are sold out of Bat Cruise tickets. If you waited, if you were a volunteer who is here in the building and forgot to buy your ticket, you're going to be sitting on the dock because we are out of tickets. Mm-hmm. So,
to be clear, there's an organized contingent of people that wanted to go, but will meet at the dock and are gonna
say toodaloo.
And say toodaloo, but then they'll all be in the same place at the same time. And I know some of the people that are organizing that, and I'm pretty sure they're gonna go get a beer together. And there's one of them in the audience right there, right now. Woo woo!
All right.
Beer.
Other than that. I want to say thank you to our live studio audience.
Woo! You guys are the best.
Thank you for the people on the other side of this wall here. Without our production audio engineers, Chelsea running the lines, we wouldn't be able to make this happen. Thank you so much. We are so freaking spoiled. We're going to take this to the after show. We're going to take this to the patron-only content. So if you want to see the rest of this conversation, maybe do the Patreon, right? I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
In the meantime,
and, if you do believe,
let's get some
love's represented by green rings.
Not everybody realizes why we do this. This was the only effect in the original studio the Atheist Experience. This was all they could do. Mm-hmm. And so they would throw this out.
It was back when Jeff D was on the show and he was wearing suspenders, so I don't know what I was going with there. On those parts, if you stand entirely still and don't react, then I just look like a fool, and it's your fault.
And I love it. I kind of want to hear what more people want to see in my holy book. But in the meantime, we're going to do the other thing that is our homage to the original Atheist Experience, because when they signed out, they would say one thing. We added something at the beginning.
Yeah, we added at the beginning, which is, if you do not believe, you have a community here, and we will help you start a community wherever you are.
You belong here, and we're so happy that you made it. And for those of you who do believe,
us.
We don't hate you. We just think you're wrong.
Epistemology is flawed.
Really, Jamie? Are we back to that?
Every time.
Oh my gosh, are we really?
Every time.
Oh, dude.
Live studio audience.
Yeah, I'm spoiled.
All right.
All right.
Control booth, where are we at? I think that went well. I don't know if the live studio audience can hear us at the moment.